Hey everybody, welcome to another Chatting with Wisdom. And today I am coming back for the first time in a while for Talk Back Thursday. Life has just taken over, and the intention is to be on every Thursday, however, with a different topic. However, it has not been in the cards. So I am back on today. And so the whole purpose of Talk Back Thursday is to be able to talk about a theme that has been coming up or a topic that has been very much relevant or present in my life and that of my clients. So I wanted to be able to talk about that whole perfectionism and authenticity. And it seems to be like any groups that I've been in or any conversations that I've had with people, is that we've had like all these conversations about perfectionism and authenticity and like being present to what it is that's going on. And so that's what I wanted to talk about today, is that whole piece of being authentic. And so yesterday I was on on an interview with someone, and we were talking about having the whole part of being authentic. And so that authenticity means being able to show up however it is that you are, whatever it is that's going on for you, and being able to own the good with the bad. And so we have this idea that we need to have everything perfect, that everything needs to be go exactly as planned, and that nothing can be strayed, and that we need to pretend like everything is great in our world. And that's not always the case. And so it's really important for us to really be authentic to who we are, being able to like know what's going on and how we're going to be able to get to that next step of what do we need to do. And so for those of us who have been struggling with perfectionism for a long time, it makes it really difficult. So and then when something does go wrong, it's like, oh my God, I'm like pulling my hair out and like nothing's going well. And so for most of you that know me, that follow me, know that I have been shifting and changing and having a new system, which takes a lot of time. And so because of all this change and needing to make sure that all the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed so that things are flowing easily and being able to be managed, is that I'm also doing this part on my own. And then I ended up getting sick on top of that, and there's just been lots of different things that have been going on. And so it's just a reminder that we need to have all of the just being patient and being authentic and being true and being able to admit when things are not going exactly the way that they need to. So a really good example is Chatting with Wisdom, the weekly interview series, is that I had stopped putting it through the Acuity system, which is where my booking system that I was using. And then, so as of April 26th, that it started to flow through, that I wanted it to start flowing through for anybody who was booking from April 26th on, that it was coming through the new system. And I had been putting it off. So I had some people that wanted to be able to join the podcast, but I didn't have all of my ducks in a row and wanted to make sure that all those things were like running perfect. And so I did the sequence and I did all the things that they needed to. I had everything flowing and everything beautiful, and everything from the way that I can tell is all exactly the way that it's supposed to be. But then when I added people into the sequence that had booked for the next three, so the April 26th, and then I don't even know what the dates would be. So April 26th, and then whatever the next 2 dates after May would be. So the 3rd, 10th, so April 26th, the 3rd, and the 10th of May we're supposed to go through, and I don't even know if I have that on March. Anyway, it should be on May, but having it so that it's actually going through, so that we know what it is that's happening, and so that people know where to be able to find the information. And I'm trying to automate it so that it can make things a little easier for Sahara And so Sahara hasn't been doing this work since January, because I have been trying to find a different way of making things flow to be able to make things easier. And so for the last 3 months, that's been my job, is trying to get all the things going. And I had some things going, and things were actually going pretty good. And then I'm like, okay, so I've got it all opened up. I've got my email sequences ready. So that way, when they sign up, they're going to get their reminder emails if it's like more than a month out. Because generally when I open it up, the spots fill up really quickly. And so then the spots open up, and then people will actually start getting their emails. And then, so if it's a month out, they're going to get a reminder email that says, hey, we're going to be happening in a month. And then after that, it's like, okay, so now it's a week before, just so that you know, we're going to be next week, and here's all the promo links that you need. And then having the day before, and then just before we start. And so those are the email sequences. And then it has the thank you, saying like, hey, thanks so much for coming, and I really appreciate you, and whatever it is that I have in there. And so then, but then it gives them that opportunity so that it can go into their system, so that it can go into the reminder. And I had a conversation with a client yesterday that says, like, why do you need so many reminders? And some people 100% honestly rely on all of those reminders. And so if somebody doesn't need them, then great, just move on. And I put things in my calendar. So if I booked something, I put it in my calendar. And if it has a link to go with it, then I've put the link into my calendar so that I can come back and find it later, so that it's there and I don't have to worry about it. But not everybody does that. So the reminder sequence allows people to be able to know. But in this case, for the live interview, it's also where to be able to find the information, because we have to manually add it to StreamYard. We have to manually add it to I've created a folder on Google Drive, that so it has to manually be added into there so that they can have access to it, and all that fun stuff. But in order for people to be able to know that this is happening, it needs to have a flow of what's going on. And so Sahara used to do all of these emails individually, and so which was time consuming. And so to be able to get her to be able to do something else that says, okay, so here's the standard, this is what's going on. A month before, you're going to get a reminder, and just to remind you to make sure that it's in your calendar, so that it doesn't change, so that if something happens you need to change it or whatever. And then so before we actually start doing all the promo, we want to make sure that everything is in place. But it didn't go. And so then, of course, I am like, oh my gosh, it didn't go. I don't understand. So then I went in and I tweaked a couple of things. And then I said, okay, well, maybe I've made a mistake. And so then I went back in and tweaked it all. And then put people back through again. So then they're getting these notifications again that says, hey, thanks so much for coming. And it's like, okay, but we haven't even got there yet. And in the one email, it doesn't even have the date. So like they can't even add it to their calendar because it's not even there. And so it's just being able to go through and having these things, but not getting stuck on all of that perfectionism part. And so, and then like even going through with the month of March, my month of March was literally a shit show. It completely went out the window. So between finishing up the conference, which all that went well, and then dealing with delivery and then support afterwards, after Clark was born, and then after that I ended up getting sick. And so then I spent almost 2 weeks pretty much in bed. I did a little bit of things, and still kind of like slowly functioned, but like not a whole lot of things that meant like being anything that was like very specific in terms of like needing lots of detail or needing lots of sequencing or like specific tasks. None of that stuff got done in the month of March, because like I didn't have the brain capacity to have all of those details. And so it's just really important for us to be able to remember that we get to be able to say, yeah, I needed to take some time. I needed to be able to slow down. I needed to be able to shift. I needed to be able to change. But also remembering that just because things don't go perfect doesn't mean that you can't do stuff. Doesn't mean that you can't have that that perspective of being able to like show up in our pajamas if we need to. And I talk about that a lot. So like being able to come in to our sessions is being able to show up in our pajamas, and people are like, oh my gosh, I was like I was so dead and I didn't show up, because it's like, but you didn't show up because you needed to have this appearance of being perfect, and that's not necessarily the case. And so yeah, like if we were going to like this great big huge soiree, then of course like we want to be all dressed up and dolled up and makeup on and do all that other stuff. But when it's just being able to just be being able to like looking after ourselves, and we're online, so who cares, right? So put a sweater on if you're like really concerned that you're still in your pajamas. Put a hat on, cover up your head if it's really, really bothering you. But just being able to stay focused on what do you need to do for yourself so that you can feel better, so that you can take those next steps. But really being able to move away from that perfectionism. And so I am a recovering perfectionist. So being able to try and that perfectionism makes things really difficult, right? So like it's like I need to have everything perfect, but then we end up not getting things done because like we don't have the ability or the wherewithal to be able to get all of the things done that need to be done. And so just being able to like get things flowing and having these things going, and then but when things don't go well, then just being able to just say, okay, it didn't go well, what am I going to do now? How am I going to take that next step? What is it that I'm going to be doing to be able to take that step to the next level? And so that's my reminder. My reminder is that perfectionism is an illusion. We have this illusion that everything needs to flow perfectly, that everything is going to go well. We have other people that influence the things that are going on in our lives. So sometimes even our best intentions don't end up going the way that we had intended or that we wanted them to, because somebody else has interfered with that particular plan. And it could be something that people have done intentionally, or that things have just happened. Somebody was in a car accident, so then they didn't show up for their appointment, or somebody had an unexpected situation that happened. And so that just happened, good or bad, right? So like it could be a positive thing. So just being able to shift and changing, and being able to look at it from that perspective of things don't need to be perfect. And so currently today, we are in the full moon in Libra. I believe I actually said the new moon at some point today. But it's the full moon in Libra. And so the full moon in Libra is that reminder of being able to be balanced. And so what is it that we're going to be doing to be able to like, oh my gosh, my nose is itchy. What are we going to be doing to be able to like take things into like being able to create that balance? And so how did I handle that situation this morning is that I responded to people and said, oops, sorry, you guys are on the first of the sequence. I have sent it off to tech support. And so tech support is supposed to help me figure out what the issue is. And so the first layer of support said to me the same thing that I'm like, so the one thing that I had changed, he had said like, oh, you're supposed to do this. And it's like, okay, I already did that. And then I went back and it didn't work. So then I went back and changed it and thought, well, maybe I did it wrong. And so then I went back and changed it to something different, which that part was different, what was wrong. But I thought, well, maybe. I have no idea. So, but on the front side, everything looks exactly the way that it is. And so from the outside, everything looks and appears to people that things are running smoothly, that everything is going well. And so even with me being unwell for a couple weeks, people are like, oh, I didn't realize that you weren't feeling well. I didn't realize that you weren't working or that you were sick. And because from the front end, things are still being posted. So I have scheduled posts going out. Sahara has some posts going out that happen on a regular basis. Periodically, I have just shared things. I was doing the selfie challenge. So some of them were from my bed. Some of them were from different perspectives of like, so I was taking a few minutes to be able to do those. And so, but otherwise, like the rest of me was cooped up in my bed, not going anywhere, and or thinking that today's better, and then partway through the day ending up having a nap. Whereas those kinds of things were going on. And like, so same as right now, I'm still very nasally. And so I still have a cough that keeps coming up. But it's just that reminder that perfectionism is definitely an illusion. And so we need to remember to allow ourselves some grace. And if someone else needed that grace, then you would immediately pipe up and say, "Oh, okay, not a big deal. Thanks so much for letting me know, and we'll figure it out." Whereas in other cases, people are, whereas like when it comes to yourself, it's like, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe that I didn't do that. And I can't believe that these things didn't get done. And how am I supposed to get moving into that next phase? Or what am I supposed to do to that next step?" So it's just all these things in terms of reminding ourselves that we have what it takes. We get to be able to slow things down. We get to be able to have these ideas of what needs to happen, and just letting things go. And so I have a client who, one of the things that she talks about is that flow, and letting things flow. And that is flow is her word for 2023. But at the same time, that we need to still have some structures in place. And so my husband says all the time, "So what's the point in planning?" Because like there's always something that turns up our plans. But at least if we have a plan, we have something to shift from. And so if we need to shift, then it makes it a lot easier. But if we're just floundering and nobody knows what they're doing or how they're doing it, and there's zero structure, then we can't make those adjustments. We can't make that plan. We can't figure out what it is that we need to be doing from there. And so that part is really important for us to be able to do. And so I'd really love to hear some of your thoughts on this, as to like, how do you navigate trying to be authentic and that perfectionism of what other people are seeing and thinking and happening. And so, because from the outside looking in, sometimes things look perfect in somebody else's world, whereas that's really not the case. A lot of times we put and even being on Zoom calls and stuff, like I see people that have the screen on where they've got like this perfect background and their house is like perfectly clean behind them, and I've got like all my stuff. Oops. I get my desk. And so like I've got all my stuff of all the things that are behind me, and whatever it is that's happening is happening. And so I don't hide that typically. Sometimes I like take things and shift them over, but for the most part, it's like I'm just going to be jumping in, and you're going to see what it is that I see when things are going on. And so it's just really important for us to be able to take that step and be true to who we are, and try and move away from that perfectionism. Try and move away and shift from having everything exactly the way that we want it to be. And so, but yeah, so that's my message. And so I hope that that helps. Really love to be able to have some feedback on it, and having a more in-depth conversation about it. And so definitely looking forward to these Thursday chats, so these Talk Back Thursdays. And the talk back part is about you guys being able to communicate and having conversations. And so if there's a topic that you guys want to talk about and you want to get together in a group of conversations, I would love to have you guys jump in with me. I love having these conversations, and because I think that they're really important for us to be able to have, and not just for other people, but for myself as well. And so whenever there's something that it's like, oh, there's some enlightenment, and it's not usually just for other people. And so it's really important for me as a human to be able to remember that I'm not perfect, and trying to strive to perfection just sets me up for failure. So like I'm like, I had everything all lined up yesterday and before I sent it out for the Chatting with Wisdom, and everything ran smoothly, or at least I thought, until this morning that it's like, oh man, it didn't go. And so but I didn't want to send it out early. I didn't want to send out whatever it was that was going on. So I had put it off and put it off and put it off. And so on Tuesday, when I put out the link, it was like, okay, it's not necessarily all set up and there may still be some glitches, but it's ready to go. And so I hadn't turned on the sequence at that point, because yesterday that's what I was doing. Yesterday and the day before that's what I was doing, was like working on that sequence and making sure that everything was in there that needed to be, and setting up the Google Drive, and having the Google Sheets ready so that people can go very easily and find their links and all that fun stuff. But turned out that I did all of that and it still didn't go exactly as planned. And so my initial response and initial reaction was like, oh God, what an idiot. Like, how much of an idiot do I look like? Right. So like that was my initial thought. And it's like, okay, no, I have nothing to do with that. This is tech thing. I'm going to put it out there, let them people know that it has to do with tech and there's nothing that I can do to change that. And we're going to get it fixed, and we're going to figure out what it is that needs to happen. And of course I sent out, because I do ask for help. So I sent it out to tech for that support. But like I had to take away that it's like, oh my God, I'm going to look like such an idiot. Like, these 3 people have never met me other than on the networking meeting that we had, where they actually got the link to sign up. And I know exactly where they got the link to sign up because I hadn't said it anywhere else. Like, that was the only place that I had shared it. And so I know that they have never met me before. Like, the people who signed up, they are all completely brand new to me, that I don't even know who they are. And so, but it doesn't make me any less of a person of how it is that things flowed. And so, yes, things don't always go as planned. Things don't always go the way that I want them to. And yes, there's some things that I have to like rejuggle and reshift. And especially in the last 2 years, 3 years since COVID started, there's lots of things that I needed to navigate and change and shift, as did everybody else. And I'm still navigating and changing and shifting and trying to figure out how to be able to make things go. And it makes it difficult because I don't have the answer that somebody is looking for at sometimes. And so, but just navigating and plugging away and continuing to be authentic to who I am, of being that kind, warm, loving person that I am, and being able to hope that for those who things have not gone exactly the way that they had anticipated or expected, that I met with love and compassion and understanding, that as I'm shifting and as I am trying to adjust to a world that has just taken everything and turned it upside down, that is where I'm at. So hope that helps. And so I will chat with all of you guys later, and have a fabulous Thursday. And for those of you who celebrate Easter, have a wonderful Easter weekend, whatever that looks like for you. And I will chat soon. Bye for now.